Welcome to the Dennis Postema show. I'm here with Kyle Carnahan. Kyle, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. This is
So you've
awesome.
had a lot of awesome transformation here in the last few years, and you built into from fitness to coaching people for quite a while to now it's your career. So tell us a little bit about what's going on with how you're coaching now and how you can affect people.
Started with fitness, man. I mean, for me, it started with fitness, and then I thought I was a fitness coach for a little bit there.
Yeah.
I am, but it's such a small piece of the puzzle, a small, very important and powerful and potent piece to your life. But I notice when someone goes all in on the discipline of fitness, that doors open up in the other aspects of their life that they wouldn't be able to go to the depth that they
Yep.
can have the discipline in their fitness and nutrition. And so, like, literally, the first thing a guy needs to do is have a dialed wake up time, go to the gym at the same time every day, and then have some sort of budget for his food with a plan and an idea of where he's going. Like, that right there will change a man's life and the way his mind works. And so, what we found really quick was that that guy started showing up on fire in his family. So, where he would normally come home from work and be irritated or go hide in the bedroom and watch Netflix or play video games and
Yeah.
or sit on the couch and just drink and be grumpy, he's now energetic and bringing a different vibration to his home. And his wife starts going, who are you? Like, where did my
Yeah.
husband go? So we're like, oh shit, this is way more powerful than we thought. A lot of guys are like, I don't need to get jacked. My wife loves me the way that I am. I'm like, well, she's fit. She's lying to you. And
Yeah.
if not, it's your fault because you're not leading.
Yep.
And they don't know. It's like you don't know if you haven't had it or you haven't had it in a while, you don't know what it's like, how powerful it is to have a fit body as an old man. Like
Yeah.
you're so fucking rare. You
Yeah.
become such a rare man. Like you got a rack of abs and you're 45. Like you you are so rare. You show up to any room, people are like, who's that guy? I
Yeah.
want to do business with him. That
100%.
I want to know that guy. I want to hang out with him, and I want to make money with him.
Yep.
So that's where this went, where it was like, oh shit, the body is directly connected to how you show up in the home, how much sex and how good it is with your wife, and how powerful you are as a leader, which directly transfers over to making money.
So do you find out when they're done with the fitness that they're like, wait a minute, if I fix this part, what would happen if I looked over here? Is that how did it naturally evolve that way or
Exactly right. And it's the same thing that happened to me.
yeah.
I got I got a rack of abs and a freaking bicep vein, and I was like, I thought I was genetically unable to do this. I had so many excuses in my life. And then I'm looking at guys who have businesses, and I'm like, I am so much more disciplined than that guy. I'm like, wait a minute, why not me?
Right.
Why not me? And all it was getting regimented, getting educated, and getting consistent, and just being more consistent than the next guy, which creates magic.
Right.
Oh shit, this simple concept. That guy's not good because he was born good.
Right.
Good because he did the shit required to become that man.
Right.
Now I can go, I'm worried about who I'm going to be in 5 years, 10 years. That changes your mindset. I
Yeah.
got to go through some shit and do some shit to become this man because what I want to accomplish can't be accomplished by this version of myself.
Right.
So I have to grow into that ability. And if I don't have what I want now, it's because I'm not the guy yet. But in order to be the guy, I just have to get more consistent for longer. That's it.
I love that. And I used to tell myself, I was very scrawny for like when I was younger and I thought my brother was big and he was jacked and I was like, oh, and I know that I remember playing in between eighth grade and freshman year and he pulled me aside and he goes, Dennis, he goes, I always have your back. He goes, but I want you to know, he goes, you're either gonna have to get big enough to you're either gonna have to learn to shut your mouth or get big enough to back it up. And we know you're not shutting your mouth. So so we started lifting weights together like in an aggressive form and that it's amazing what you can do if you put the discipline in and you transform that into to where you'd never even recognize what your body was way back then. So it's just funny you say that because that's true. You know, it's limiting the belief is all it is. That's all you're doing.
Much. And then there's the act of the lifting of the weights as well in that set where you can see where you're at and how far you've come based upon how far you can push yourself.
Yep.
So like even just doing like cable rows this morning, I always think of this because I'm like, okay, this is probably where I would have stopped, uh, you know, 10 years ago. I would have been like, that's failure. But now I'll squeeze out five more.
Yeah.
And I'm like, your capacity to get closer to failure or extend that out gets longer.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing that now in everything, in everything. In a difficult conversation with my wife, sitting and being uncomfortable, keeping my mouth shut and not having to blow up on her
Yeah.
and checking my ego, which is the same as like that last rep where you're just like burning and
Yeah.
like, no, I'm gonna do another one. And or business when things are like really shitty and are
Yeah.
looking bleak and you go no, we're going to keep going. I accept the consequences that might happen. This is the path and we'll be fine. You know, it's the same as like doing those extra reps in the gym.
It's funny because I listened to a video when I was working out, and they said that, you know, the mind gives up before the body almost all the time. And I was like, and since I did that, the amount of reps, just thinking that in my mind, same thing with, you know, whether it's the cable machine or whatever I'm doing, I'm like, oh, I'm not a failure yet. And like even with my sales team, I'm like, when they say, oh, you know, I'm giving 100%, when they're working out or something like that. I'm like, no, you're not. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, because you would have passed out.
Yep.
You would be in the hospital. You'd be if you're giving 100%. If you actually think about it, if you're giving 100%, you might be giving 95, but if you give 100, you'd be out because
Yep.
your body would give up. So
Yeah. And I do it from my mind too, because like
yeah,
there's a lot of science behind like not going to failure every set. You don't have to, but I'm like, no, I have to.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and you look around the gym and you're like, I have this thought all the time. I'm like, am I just like an egomaniac or something? But nobody is pushing as hard as me, not even close. I always tell my wife, I'm like, is this just me? Like, she's like, no, no one is pushing as hard as you. She's like, except for me. I'm like,
So,
fair enough,
yeah,
fair enough.
that's fair. Yeah, that's a battle you can't win. It's funny you say that too because I work out at home now. But I remember the last time I went to a local gym and it was the college there, and then one of the football players were there, and he was on the squat rack, right? And I love just for stupid reasons just to have a challenge, right? And so like he's over there squatting, so I, you know, kind of match it. And I'm like, and then he puts more on. I'm like, well, all right, we can do this. And then and so I'm doing, and I just kept going. And I was like, damn, I was like, this guy is really gonna push it. And I'm very fortunate that my legs were strong, but you know, it's just fun to have that little
Go,
challenge of I
go
was
hand
like,
him $100 and say, thanks, coach.
yeah, exactly. I just wanted to be like, if I had this every day, do you know what I'd look like?
Yeah,
know, and he probably didn't even know, you know, he's 20
yeah.
years younger. He's just, you know,
Yeah.
probably doing all sorts of crazy athletic stuff. But to me, it was whatever that personal, you know, like Jordan used to do, whatever that is to drive you, that orchestrated chip. So
And that's why we hang out with high level motherfuckers
yeah,
that are doing shit that we can't do yet. You
yeah,
know, it's like hanging out with Wes and Andy and Garrett. Like I'm just like I'm like, hey, cute little guy. Like maybe
yeah,
someday you'll make something of yourself, you know. But
yeah,
it just opens your mind. There's like people that don't get coaches. I'm like, you're an idiot.
yeah, yeah,
Like not just some fucking life coach who's 22 years old, like somebody who's doing what you want to do
100%. Yeah,
or has a life like you want to have,
yep.
you know?
Yeah, that's some of the best advice that I've ever. In fact, I was gonna give somebody that advice today. Is if they're not in the position that you want to be in as a father, in shape, in business, whatever it is, don't listen to that advice. You know, we had that spirit that sprout of time where there were people in there trying to coach that weren't educated to coach, right? And so like that's gone now. Like I mean, it's still out there, but now there's people who've
Can't
been in
make
the
it.
game.
Like,
Yeah,
bro, if you don't have something to offer, like
yeah,
it ain't gonna happen for you.
yeah, yeah,
You have to have some life experience or have some thing. Like my superpower is when you get around me, you're going to do 10 times the shit
Yeah.
that you do on your own, very much like that guy in the gym who's squatting next to you.
Yeah. Yep.
That's my superpower. I
Yeah.
do shit. And when you're around me, you do shit.
Yep.
That- and what happens, like, what is the value of that? Like, that's invaluable. Like,
When
so
when did you learn about community like that? So when was your first experience when it like when was that aha moment when you're like, shit, it's because of my community that I'm like, boom. Like or is it or did you start seeking it out more or how did that work?
it was when I became a fireman
Okay.
because I went in so like weak, scared, nervous, you know. As a little kid, I was never very athletic. I was always picked last on the team. Like they all the things they would say about an aggressive guy like me, they're like, you must have been bullied as a kid. Yep, I was. So like, and now you're trying to prove something to the world. That's all you're doing. I'm like, exactly.
Yep.
And that's why I built Superhuman Fathers because I was picked last. I want to be fucking picked first.
Yep.
So like I built this for me because I didn't want to be alone and I wanted to be around people that saw like my potential and I could see theirs. And then we got rid of all this weird bullshit of
Yeah.
ego and judgment and we could just be and grow together. Like that's what I wanted. I fucking created it.
Yeah.
So
Isn't that amazing how we create? Isn't that amazing how we create what we need and then it's useful to other people? Like, oh, if I need it, I'll bet you there's probably I'm not the only person. I'm not the only guy who needs this bond, right? And so it's funny you say that because like everything that I've ever done or created, I'm like, oh, well, I actually need it. How did you get involved with book publishing? Well, I did it the wrong way, sucked at it, lost a fortune doing it, and I was like, okay, I'm going to learn how to do it the right way, and I'll bet somebody else might need help with that. And so it's funny you say that because it's and that but that's the most valuable thing we can bring to the world, isn't it? Yeah. So
greatest fear of most men is to be alone and to die alone. And somebody might hear this and be like, I don't care about that. Well, you're probably not alone right now,
yeah,
feeling alone. But I talk to, I mean, I've talked to thousands of men, and it comes down to not being accepted, not having anyone, not being connected with your wife, driving away your kids, not amounting to anything, living an average, low level life, and then dying with no purpose and meaning alone. So, what's my greatest fear? Being alone.
yeah,
So, what did I build? Like when you have that best friend that you meet and you're like, dude, this is my homie. Like this is the
yeah,
guy. I have hundreds of them
yeah.
because I was a magnet for people like myself to come work with me. Like it's amazing.
That's awesome. That and it's so true on so many levels, and that the level that that has to bring. So, what have you noticed that like so how much better have people become as far as like with being fathers and whatnot? How much a change have you seen in that? Because I think I mentioned before I was at a men's retreat and the numbers are staggering with fathers and the absenteeism and the things that like happens with them not being in the home, not being in their kids' lives. How much have you been able to help that, and what are some of the success stories you've had with those?
I'll read you one I got this morning.
Okay.
So uh Billy just sent me we have a system that we use where we do stacks every morning
Okay.
and we send them to each other and he just sent me a appreciation stack and it it's called he titled it I'm hearing God's voice. So this is a man that did not know how to do that. He hated himself. He was in a crack house. He was making a buck 50 to 200 a year in his roofing company, popping pills, just looking for the easy route, comfort, thought he'd reach the top of the mountain. And he says, I'm proud of how far I've come. I see that I have to show myself love, have to give credit to myself. He talks about how he always had low moments and hated himself all the time. And he's finally learning how to love himself. And as he's loving himself, he says, Dear God, I want to thank you for everything that you put me through. I want you to know that I will use it as a tool to lead. I thank you for waking me up every day to a beautiful family. Bro, that really does love me. I'm honored to feel this feeling, something I haven't felt in a very long time, and it's hard to take in sometimes, but I will keep a smile on my face and I will show the world the changes that I've made. I want God to know that I thank you for the blessings upon my family. I want to thank him for changing our whole lives in the last 2 years. It's been amazing. I'm looking forward to the next chapter of my life. And then he says that I appreciate him bringing Kyle and Whitney into my family's life, that they are the most genuine people I've ever met. I want God to bless their lives, their businesses. I want you to keep a hand of protection over their family. So I receive these daily,
Wow.
and I am deeply involved in their lives. And we have been through hell together. Like, we have had combative yelling matches together where I'm trying to get the fucking demons out of this man, pushing just enough, but not too much to drive him away, but just
Right.
enough to get him to see and to move. And if I can hold him in that sweet spot, it is miraculous. Literally, it's
Yeah.
like God working through you to put hands on people just like Jesus did. When Jesus healed people of demons, depression, anxiety, self-hate, that's what we're doing.
Right.
And the cool thing is, like, I don't have to take the credit.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I was like, what do I do with this? My ego is getting kind of fucking big because I'm like really good at this.
Yeah.
And then when I found God, I was like, yes, take this, please.
Yeah.
Now I know it's not me.
Yeah. Now I understand where it's coming from. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So now I can just open my mouth and do my thing and thank God to be a part of it, this intermediary between people's lives. And
That's
by the way, he put $1 million in his bank account last year. And now we're partners in his roofing company.
That's amazing. It's amazing when you do such things and then people just want to continue to build with you because you're doing so many great things and they need that support, that structure, that person. When you become their person of when I'm in doubt, here's what I've got. Here I can go and I can talk to that person. That's just
I've
powerful,
always had those people too. That's the thing. I'm no better than Billy. I'm just I'm just me on my path. I need someone to breathe fire into me too.
right? Yeah,
Like, I'm currently working very close with Garrett White. He's my fire. He gets me clear. He gets me straight. I feel like him the same way Billy just wrote to me. I write the same shit to him.
it's amazing, isn't it?
Too.
It's the way the circle works. It's just, and tell me a little bit about. I want to talk. You mentioned it earlier. I want to talk about people who, they're afraid of coaching. They're afraid to put money into coaching. It has changed my life in so many ways. And people always are like, well, the affordability of getting a coach and things like that. Yeah, I would say you can't afford not to, personally. And like you mentioned it with talking about when you have a subject or something you're weak at, you just go look at a coach. How much quicker does that move the needle for what you're doing?
Word is acceleration,
Yeah,
massive acceleration.
yeah,
And so, like, life is very short. And especially if you're doing something very difficult, you will take 10 years, sometimes up to 30 years, and put them in a year, depending on what it is you're learning.
yeah,
Um, I'm 7 figures deep in the last 2 years on my own personal development.
yep,
That's how much I believe in it. This is why I sell like a motherfucker, because I live it. So,
yeah,
like, someone talk like, you can't sell what you don't buy. That's
yep,
the thing.
yeah.
Like, I've fucking bought everything and I've delved into all of it. So when I get on a call with somebody, I'm like, bro, you are shitting the bed. Like, I know what this does for you. I already know. If I can't get you to move, then I fucking failed you.
Yeah.
And I've put the money and the work in on the other side. So I have this authority to
Yeah.
push.
Yes.
And they can feel it. It's a vibration where they're like, this guy's not full of shit.
Yeah.
Like you can feel truth.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
and this is why this movement grows so fast, because we fucking live what we teach. That's the difference. And we're utterly honest about all of our imperfections.
Yeah.
Literally, like, crucify ourselves, humiliate ourselves in front of our men, risking it all every single time. There will be nothing hidden from anyone. That includes the world. Like, if you
Yeah.
watch my social media, I'm telling everything.
But your
It's
authenticity is
uncomfortable.
amazing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. How do you get through those uncomfortable moments?
I just grit it like you're in the fucking squat rack and talk to my wife about it. And I'm just like, my stomach hurts.
Yeah,
I don't know if I should have said that. She's like, was
yeah.
it true? I was like, yeah. She's like, well,
It's out there now.
and the thing is, worst case scenario, I do something so stupid and I tell the world, and then, my business falls apart. What does that create? A fucking comeback story.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
So it's just patience and integrity and honesty and like putting those all together with your clear vision of where you're going. And then understanding that there's going to be ups and downs. And within that, there's this value system that you have to live in
yeah,
order to do it right and stay on the path. There's just moments of truth, man, where you're just like, I fucked up.
yeah,
And then, people see that and they're like, why would you say that on Instagram? And you're just like, because it's true.
yeah,
If I'm trying to sell the world on me,
yeah.
I have to be honest with the world.
I love that. I loved your post the other day about your fighting and all the different things. I love that the other day. I was like, "Oh my gosh, that is I don't remember everything it said, but I was like, what was it, 9 years of fighting?" And
Yeah, the Aikido
yeah.
just wasted 9 years of my life thinking I could fight. And then a guy who boxed for 6 months just kicked my ass. Like I had no chance, dude. Like that you can't fuck with a jab with Aikido. Like, and there'll be Aikido guys that are like, no, you can. I'm like, bullshit. You have never gone in the ring with a boxer as an Aikido guy. You will get and wrestler, jab, jab, double leg, elbow to the face. It'll happen every fucking time.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's a great example of like the humility of like because I mean, you're a tall guy too. How tall are you?
6'2".
6'2". I mean, you're a beast when you walk in. So like when you say that, and I'm like, damn, I'm like, okay. I'm like, I love that he shared that because I'm 5'11", and I've always wanted to be 6 foot because my older brother is bigger than me. My dad was taller than me. My younger brother's like 6'3", 6'4". And I'm like, I don't know. I tell everybody it was coffee, but then I also tell them, Andro was also legal when I was in high school. I say, I said, so like, GNC, you could go there and get, before Sosa and then mess it all up. Go to
Yeah.
GNC and get Andro, it was just a thing.
GNC was like the roid dealer back in the day.
Yeah, I
Protein
mean,
powders were all spiked and shit. Kids in high school just getting fucking swole on D-ball and shit.
yeah, I mean, the old school hydroxy cut, all that stuff. I mean, that's with the Fed
Yak
drug.
PED or whatever that was.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, let's sprinkle a little meth in here. They'll keep buying it.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, they probably didn't do the testing they were supposed to back then, but yeah, I always blame something about my growth or about my height, but anyway, so I love it. I love that you're vulnerable with it, man. I think what you're sharing with the world is awesome. I mean, it inspires me all the time. So I appreciate you. So
Same shit works at home with your wife. Just stop defending yourself. Like men are always defending themselves because they don't have confidence, but you don't need to have confidence to tell the truth. And
yeah,
then and that's why we build the body too, is because it helps. It's a tool to kind of build confidence in yourself so that you can speak truth. It's a lot easier to speak truth when you're proud of yourself than when
right,
you hate yourself. It's very hard to be vulnerable and speak truth. But how me and my wife connected was just that. Like we're just honest with each other. There's no secrets. Nothing is hidden. Nothing.
yeah,
As humiliating as it is. And it's the same thing with my kids. I just tell them the truth. Tell them when I fucked up. Tell them when I don't know. You know,
that's amazing. How do you develop a mindset like that, Kyle? How do you get And I mean, you can tell that obviously it's way past fitness. Your mindset is so on point. How did you develop that, and how can you help some of our viewers to do that?
I was raised Mormon, and although I'm not part of that religion, and I'm not even going to say that I'll never be again because I don't close off to anything. Like
Sure.
if God tells me, "Hey, go be Mormon again," I'd be like, "Ah, shit,
Hmm.
really? Come on!" But I
Can we
don't.
negotiate about this?
Yeah, I don't want to close myself off to
Do
anything. I don't
pros
want
and
to be in a
cons here.
box,
Yeah,
right? Like I'm listening and I'm willing,
right.
but that did teach me um a lot of values that I was able to test
Yeah,
that worked. and they worked outside of the church as well. When I left, I was like, oh, the values still work in my relationships, in building relationships with other people, in building trust with people. Like if you meet me, it's gonna be just about 30 seconds before you're like, I can trust this guy. Like you can feel it.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted that because again, I have always sought to not be alone. So I developed this ability out of just like dire need to connect with people that I learned how, oh, wow, when I'm actually honest and authentic about the good and the bad all at the same time, people go, why would he tell me that? Like I can trust him. And then they let their guards down. They open their hearts. Their truth starts coming out. Now we're actually having a relationship. Now we can get somewhere because we're at the bottom of what the fuck is really happening.
Yeah.
And they don't feel judged. They just feel loved. So like after that event at Ryan Moran's, I had a line of 20 people coming and spewing their darkest truth they never told anyone to me. So because I'm a place where they can deposit it and free themselves without judgment.
That's amazing. And being able to do that for that, that's it. So, and you have an event coming up too, right?
Yeah, the 19th through the 21st, 19, 20, 21.
Okay.
Big event. This is our awakening event. 3 months of coaching that leads up into this 3-day event. And we call it the awakening because you will never be the fucking same ever. This literally is the most powerful event that I have ever been to, and it's the one that I ran. Wow, seems like he's really plugging himself right now. No, I've been to all of them, and I've
Yeah.
never experienced anything like what happened. I didn't know what I was. We've only done one. This is the second one.
Mm.
But I mean, I just felt God's hand on me, man. He's like, I just let go and surrendered to it. And we freed every single man in that group
That's
from
amazing.
holding them back.
That's amazing. And you know, you don't have to plug yourself because I'll plug you, Kyle, as far as getting to like seeing what you've done and what you're doing. It's just amazing to even get to have this conversation with you. And I give you plenty of props because of what you're doing with our community, with
Oh,
men.
thank you, man. When I say that, part of me is very nervous because I'm like, can I duplicate what I just did? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
because the first one was so
sure.
powerful that this is coming up, and I'm like, God, can you do that again, please?
Yeah.
I don't.
Because the experience was so much. How can I redo that and can it come with as much energy or is it going to be more? What's going to happen? Yeah.
What's going to happen. And what I do know is I feel like before an event like that, I feel a preparation of
Yeah.
like my mind and my heart. I can feel it happening all the way leading up to the event. It's like this fire and it's just ready to explode, but it just holds right until that moment.
And then it just goes. That's amazing. That's awesome. Well, how can everybody get a hold of you, Kyle?
Superhuman Fathers on Instagram at Superhuman Fathers is the best spot. We did start a YouTube channel. We've got some like long form stuff in there. If you want to get to know me and my family, some of our podcast stuff, same Superhuman Fathers. And then hit that link on the Instagram and come have a conversation with us.
Yeah. Go check them out. I appreciate you, Kyle. I appreciate you being on the show. I can't wait to some of the things that we're going to do together. So thank you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care.